I know I said I wouldn't do my second mock draft until March, but I decided to change the format and do one mock draft per month. So the next one you will see will be in February, then March, April, etc. Unlike with the last mock draft, I will be using the actual order based off the standings rather than a randomized order. And I will be doing that with all the mock drafts until the lottery order is confirmed at the end of the season. There are some slight changes compared to the first mock draft with the order where some players are going, but let's get right into it. The Houston Rockets are up first, and it's kind of obvious who they're taking. They're taking Victor Wembanyama, who's going number one regardless of the team picking. I think Alperen Sengun is a very fun player, but he's not good enough to pass on a once-in-a-lifetime prospect like this. I would actually be really interested in a Victor-Jalen dynamic. I think with those two, you have a foundation that immediately becomes one of the most potent young duos in the sport. I also think Jabari Smith will work really well off of both of them, and it could be beneficial for his development. The Detroit Pistons are up next, and they're going to take Scoot Henderson, and I think that, they have Cade, they have Ivy, but first of all, Cade can play the 3 and Ivy can play the 2. And second of all, Scoot is just too good of a prospect to pass up on it too, especially when you look at this draft and it's not many years, if any years, where a prospect this good would even be on the board at pick 2. And third of all, the only other player I would have considered for this pick is a similar prospect, and I have a higher grade on Scoot than that other prospect. So either way, 2 or 3, you're picking a player, if you're Detroit, that is going to cause some form of shuffling with the current roster construction. You draft one of the best point guard prospects of the last decade, and you just make it work. And given that Scoot and Cade are both extremely intelligent and high-skill players, I think they can make it work. Plus, Ivy would work well off of both of them in more of an off-ball role, which I think would really suit him well. The Charlotte Hornets are up at pick number 3, and they can't be picky. They are taking the third best player in this draft, in my opinion, Amen Thompson. Amen has separated himself to me as that third guy. He's a one-of-one type athlete with elite playmaking upside, and having a backcourt of him and LaMelo could be a lot of fun. Both of them are world-class passers and are tall for the position, and I think the men's rim pressure complements LaMelo's shot creating and shooting very well. I think the fact that each of their flaws on offense is the other's strength, and that works really well. Plus, I think Amen would help them out a ton defensively. I'm not fully there yet with this idea that he should be the clear-cut 3 no matter what in a mock draft, but I'm getting close to that feeling where it's the same way I feel about Victor at 1 and Scoot at 2. The Spurs at pick 4 are in a weird spot to me because I feel like they are set at a lot of the positions that the best player available would be at, and for me, the one position they need is a big long-term because I think they're going to trade Jakob Poeltl. And to me, there isn't a big word taking this high, so I decided to go with a bit of a shocking pick here and take Cassad Wallace. Wallace, to me, is the best defensive one-and-done guard prospect I've ever evaluated. Elite instincts, great at reading coverages, plays passing lanes well, and is physical as an on-ball defender. Not perfect on offense, but he's a good passer in my opinion, and a better scorer than given credit for, because I do think he's a pretty good three-point shooter, and I think there is some room to grow as an on-ball player. Like with all Kentucky guards, you have to wonder how much of it is him and how much of it is the system limiting what he's capable of on offense, because we've seen too many Kentucky guards feel like they were not something that they end up being in the league when they're in college because the system just limited what they were asked to do, and I feel like that might be the case with Wallace. Regardless, I think Wallace is just so great defensively and does enough offensively to justify top 5 consideration. I know this is very high for him, probably the highest you'll see him in a mock draft, but I think that what he does defensively and what he could be on offense is enough to justify him going this high, even if I have a few guys maybe ahead of him on my big board, because personally speaking, I would love to see a Wallace, Vassell, Sohan lineup defensively, because that would be so much fun. The Orlando Magic are up at pick 5. They're taking Ausar Thompson, the other Thompson twin. I actually heavily considered Ausar at pick 4 But I had him going 4 in my last mock draft. I didn't want to be too repetitive, especially with 1, 2, and 3 being the exact same order. And funny enough, I had Amen going to the Magic in the last one. But Asaro is a great player in his own right. Freak athlete with someone that flashed the ability as a shot maker, someone that I think has improved a lot in that area this season, and could be a great connecting playmaker, which would fit really well with this Orlando team. And to me, it's just the best available player that actually fits very well with the team, and I think you'll get Orlando. And among the teams that are going to be picking in this mock draft, they have the most established cornerstone players, where you have Paulo, Franz, I think Wendell is a cornerstone for them, and I just think getting a guy like Asaro would be very much just not only fun, but also something that could take them to that next level where maybe next season they are a playoff team. The Washington Wizards are up at pick number 6, and I have them going Cam Whitmore, who is best player available at this point in the draft, best power athlete in the class, has shown availability as a 3-point shooter, has elite defensive upside. I considered him much higher than this, but he went to the Hornets in the last mock draft, and I just think Amen's a better prospect at 3 anyways. And given that Kassan was someone I didn't really talk about too much in the last mock draft, I really just wanted to give him an in-depth sort of talk with a team that I think he fits very well with in the Spurs. However, to keep it with Cam and the Wizards, they just need someone with upside. They need somebody that has potential to be a starter, and Cam Whitmore is a player that has their potential. And honestly, in the real draft, if he's available probably around this range, you run that pick up, because I think he's going much higher than this in the actual draft. The Raptors are up at pick number 7, a spot that I don't think many of us actually thought they would be in at this point in the season. And they're taking Derek Whitehead. Derek, to me, is a player that's starting to figure it out, and his stock is trending back upwards for me because of that. He's a good 3-point shooter, has shot creating potential, decent passer, good athlete, really good frame, an NBA-ready frame as one of the younger players in the class, and has shown real potential on defense and flashes as well. I think the way he's trending, he could end up going even higher than pick 7, and given the Raptors roster, I think this is a plug-and-play kind of guy that they would want. His frame, athleticism, and offensive potential are too much to pass up on at this point in the draft for me, and again, if he continues to play the way he has, he might even be a top 5 guy by the end of the season, but only time will tell with that. It's still pretty early on. We go from a team that is probably slotted to pick a lot higher than expected going into the year to a team that is probably slotted to pick a lot lower than expected going into the year in the OKC Thunder. OKC will be taking Nick Smith Jr. from Arkansas with this pick. He's a perfect fit on this roster as a combo guard. He can play both on and off the ball. He can run second units as the main guy. He can play in off-ball lineups with, say, Giddey. Like with the last few picks, I think that Nick Smith has a chance to go even higher than this. But when you have such a stacked class, talented guys are going to go lower than maybe the grade I have them or the grade you have on them. And I do think this is a class that is just so good that some teams will feel comfortable taking a fit over a talent, because the talent grades are just going to be that close. Regardless, I love the Nick Smith fit in OKC. Another team that is probably slotted to pick a lot lower than expected going into the year in the Utah Jazz will be taking Jett Howard, the wing out of Michigan. He's a player I consider as high as number 4 in this mock draft. I am super high on him as a prospect. He's 6'8", can shoot, pass, dribble, and defend. He's a near perfect wing for the modern NBA. I think he has more upside than just being a role player as well. I think getting a versatile wing like this would work well off of Lauri Markkanen, who I believe has been playing at all-NBA level this season. And Jett is a safe pick because of his high floor due to his baseline skill set as being literally everything you look for in a modern NBA player. But he also has a relatively high ceiling, in my opinion, as well. He's a player that can help compete right away and contribute right away, and could be even more than that. I think that's a perfect situation for a Utah Jazz draft pick. The Atlanta Hawks are on the clock at pick 10, a team that I don't think many, including myself, thought would be picking this high at this point in the season. And it's very clear to me that even though they add DeJounte Murray, who many, including myself, thought would take the Atlanta Hawks to the next level, and he's actually been pretty good this season, the Hawks need defense badly. They also need a new coach, but that's a whole other topic for a whole other video. But they need defensive help. And Jarace Walker has an argument, in my opinion, to be the best non-Wemby defender in this draft. And is, in my opinion, the most versatile non-Wemby defender in this draft. I think whoever the Hawks picks will be a player who can contribute on defense out the gate. And Walker has a high defensive feel, he's super physical, great athlete, can defend multiple defensive coverages and hold his own on switches. His flashes of offense are enough to really bank on his defense, in my opinion. He's not a zero on offense by any means. He is a good passer with good passing feel and is growing as a shooter. Does need work as a shooter, but as a transition threat and ball man, he could be good almost immediately. This might be a hot take, but outside of the top 5 players on my board, not in the order of this mock draft, I think he is the player that I'm the most confident in being, at the very least, a contributor for a very long time in the league. The Orlando Magic are back on the clock at pick number 11. This is the pick they got from the Chicago Bulls in the Nikola Vucevic trade. And they're going to take Brandon Miller from Alabama here. This is definitely lower than most people have Miller going. Most people have him as a top 10 lock. I've seen him go even in the top 5. I am lower on Miller than most are, but I do think he's a lottery guy based on his baseline skill set of 3-point shooting, POA defense, and passing flashes at 6'9". However, I do have concerns about his self-creation and finishing through contact that does limit his ceiling. I don't factor his age into this because, yes, even though he is older for a freshman, I don't think that means he can't improve either, and it's just not why he's fallen. The reason he's fallen is, I think, some of the concerns I have with his game do limit his ceiling and are things that other players that are going to go ahead of him don't have to worry about per se. But I like his fit with this Orlando team. He's someone that would play well off of guys like Paulo, Franz, and Asar in this scenario. Again, he has the skills to be a contributor in the league at the very least. It would shock me if he's not a contributor. I think he even has potential to be a high-level starter. But in this class in particular, I do have him going a bit lower. However, that doesn't mean that I think that he can't go top 10. I would feel comfortable taking him in the top 10. I considered him as high as number 6 to the Wizards, but this is just how the board falls. A consistent trend with guys picked in this range for me, including the next pick, is they could be argued higher or lower. But I feel like Miller's fit with this Orlando team at this point in the draft, and that's why he's going here. The Pelicans are on the clock at pick number 12. This is the pick they got from the Lakers in the Anthony Davis trade, and they're going to take Keontae George from Baylor here. Just like I said with a lot of these players, George is one of those guys you could argue higher or lower than their draft slot in this mock draft, this one being pick 12. George is a great shot maker, good pull-up shooter, has better shooting ability than I think his numbers indicate. He can hit tough shots and play off ball. He's some potential on defense and as a passer that are encouraging and have really improved his stock for me throughout the year. And for the Pelicans, what I've noticed with Ingram and Zion out is that they have a lot of good young pieces and good pieces in general, but I think they could use a shot maker like this, take some of the load off of CJ with second units and things like that. I love the Pelicans core. It's probably my favorite core of players in the league. I think adding Keontae George would add an element of self-creation that they could use, while also adding off-ball value that allows them to play in lineups with the stars as well. Portland Trail Blazers are on the clock at pick number 13, and they're going to take G.G. Jackson, the wing forward out of South Carolina. Jackson is the ultimate wild card in this draft. I've seen him in the top 10. I've seen him in the 20s. To me, he's a top 15-ish guy on my board as of right now. And the upside is real. He's one of the highest upside prospects in this class. Not many shot creators at 6'9" are doing what he's doing at this young of an age, and that combination is not something that grows on trees. However, he does have flaws, as he does need work as a passer, defensive awareness, and overall feel for the game in situations where he's going to have a lesser role compared to what he has right now at South Carolina, because he has a lot of freedom at South Carolina to really try things, which is good for his development, obviously long term. But I do think learning to reel it in a bit is something he'll need to work on. High risk, high reward prospect, and Portland is known for taking swings on these kind of prospects. It could be a good thing long term, because I think Portland develops their prospects very well. Look at Anthony Simons. I like what they're doing with Saden Sobe. And I think that, Portland again has shown they're willing to be patient and draft guys like this. And I think it's a situation that could benefit both G.G. Jackson and the Blazers long term. The Utah Jazz are on the clock at pick number 14. This is the pick that they got from Minnesota in the Rudy Gobert deal. And with that pick, they're going to be taking Grady Dick from Kansas. Yes, that's his actual name. Get your laughs off. But Grady Dick is arguably the best shooter in this draft in all seriousness. He has shown potential to be even more than just a shooter as well. He's a good athlete with finishing potential. He can be a fast break option. He can play both on and off the ball. More on-ball flashes than really substance, which I think you can classify his off-ball ability as substance. But he has a great defined skill set on offense, and something that he's going to be good at right away. And there's room to grow in other areas of offense with him as well. I think he's a decent passer, and again, I do think there is some on-ball juice that can be unlocked, and I do think it's being undersold a bit. The reason he's going 14 instead of the top 10 is defense. He's not good on defense. He dies on screens, doesn't have good off-ball awareness. It's not really even a case where I feel like it's just a freshman learning curve. I just think that it's really bad right now. And I'm not saying he can't improve on it, but I do wonder if his defense will limit how much he can play early on. But I do expect him to get minutes early on whatever team drafts him, because he's that good of a shooter. And I do think, again, there's room to grow, there's room to improve, but it's really bad on defense right now. Regardless, I think getting Jet Howard and Grady Dick in the same draft will be a home run for Utah. Those are two guys with potential to be more than what they are right now, and also have a defined skill set that can let them contribute in some form right away. But that's the end of this video made to this point. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me that you guys watch these videos. Let me know what you think of this mock draft. What picks do you agree with? What picks do you disagree with? Who are some of your favorite prospects? I will say one prospect that wasn't included in this mock draft that likely will be included in future ones is Maxwell Lewis from Pepperdine. He's a prospect that I know a lot of people I know are very high on, and it's just someone I haven't gotten to the table with yet, and someone that I really just think, once I get into the tape, I'll see what I think about him, and if I agree with what my peers think about him, he will be in the lottery of the next mock draft more than likely. If I don't, I don't. It's just how this works. We're not going to agree on everything, but he is someone that likely will be included in future mock drafts after I watch a bit more tape on him to the point I feel comfortable with my evaluation on him at this point. But yeah, that's the one name that I think was excluded that you might be wondering, where is he? But that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.